You're stuck inside. The rain hasn't stopped in 6 days. Your phone is at 11% and you've refreshed every app you own. This feels like nothing. But the real answer is far stranger than boredom. Somewhere in your genes, a week of rain used to mean something close to survival. Picture it. No roof that actually keeps water out. No fire that stays lit. No dry wood for 100 miles. Just you, your group, and a sky that will not clear. What did they do? What did your ancestors actually do when the rain refused to stop? The first thing they did was stay close. Closer than usual. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying the Yuhuanzi San people of the Kalahari, and she found something surprising about how they used time when the weather forced them together. During the day, conversation was practical. Who found food? Where the animals moved? What needed fixing? But at night, especially when people were confined, the talk changed. It turned into stories, myths, gossip about people far away. Wiesner called this a shift from economic talk to social talk, and she argued it was not idle chatter. It was how a group rehearsed its own trust in each other. Rain does the same thing fire does. It traps people in one place, and trapped people, it turns out, talk. Here's the strange part. That forced closeness may have shaped your brain more than any tool ever did. Robin Dunbar, the evolutionary psychologist known for a very different number, the maximum size of a stable human social group, spent decades arguing that language itself evolved not to describe the world, but to hold a group together. He called it social grooming with words. Chimpanzees groom each other's fur to bond. Humans, once groups grew too large for everyone to be picked clean by hand, had to bond some other way. Talking became the new grooming. And nothing forces more talking than a week with nowhere to go. So when the rain came and came again and did not let up, your ancestors were not just waiting it out. They were bonding, fast, under pressure, in close quarters with nothing else to do but talk, plan, and worry together. But waiting was not passive. It was work. Dangerous work in its own way. Wet wood does not burn. And without fire, there is no warmth, no cooking, no protection from what moves in the dark. Archaeological evidence from sites like Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa shows early hominins maintaining fire for extraordinarily long stretches, which tells you something. Fire was not lit and forgotten. It was guarded, fed, protected like a fourth member of the family. A week of rain meant a week of someone, probably several someones, doing nothing but keeping a flame alive against water that wanted to kill it. Ask yourself, have you ever protected something that fragile? Something that could vanish the moment you stopped paying attention? Your ancestors did. Every single day the rain fell. And there was another problem. Food does not wait for good weather. Fresh meat spoils. Foraged plants rot. A week without hunting or gathering is a week of drawing down whatever was saved. This is likely one of the earliest and strongest pressures behind food sharing itself. Kristen Hawkes, an anthropologist who studied the Hadza of Tanzania, found that successful hunters routinely shared meat far beyond their own family, even when it cost them personally. Her research suggested this wasn't pure generosity, it was insurance. A hunter who shares today is fed tomorrow by someone else's luck. In a system like that, a week of bad weather is exactly when the debts get called in. Exactly when the group finds out who it can actually count on. Rain, in other words, was a test of the fire, of the food stores, of every quiet promise the group had made to each other without ever saying so out loud. Now think about what was happening inside the shelter itself. Because there was a shelter, even the earliest humans built one. Windbreaks made of branches and hide. Later, more complex structures with drainage channels dug around the edges, something archaeologists have found evidence of at sites tens of thousands of years old. Someone had to notice the water pooling. Someone had to dig the channel before the whole camp flooded. This was not guesswork. it was accumulated knowledge, passed down, tested, and passed down again. A week of rain was a week where every piece of inherited knowledge got put to use at once. To channel someone's grandmother dug decades earlier. The fire-tending trick someone's father swore by. None of it optional. All of it necessary, all at the same time. And somewhere in all of that pressure, something else happened. Something quieter. Boredom. Real, unstructured, nowhere to go boredom. And this might be the strangest part of the whole story, because boredom, when it has nowhere to escape to, tends to turn into invention. Some of the oldest surviving art in the world, the ochre engravings at Blumbo's Cave in South Africa, dating back roughly 70,000 years, were made in a place that would have seen exactly this kind of forced, weather-driven downtime. Nobody knows for certain what someone was thinking as they carved those cross-hatched lines into a piece of stone. But it was not urgent. It was not survival in the direct sense. It was something a mind does when it has time it did not ask for. You do the same thing. When you're stuck inside on a rainy day, you doodle. You reorganize a drawer that didn't need it. You start a project you'll abandon in a week. That restlessness is old. It might be one of the oldest things about you. There's also the matter of sleep. You might think rain would make sleep easier. The sound of it, steady and soft, is often used today as a kind of therapy. But for a group with no solid roof, rain at night meant something closer to vigilance than rest. Predators do not stop hunting because the weather turned. If anything, some become more active, using the noise of falling water to mask their approach. Researchers studying nocturnal predation patterns in savanna ecosystems have long noted that heavy rain reduces the effectiveness of both sight and sound as early warning systems for prey animals. Your ancestors would have known this without a single study to tell them. They would have felt it. Someone likely stayed half awake through those nights, listening past the water for the sound that did not belong. Think about that. An entire week where true, deep, undisturbed sleep may not have been possible. Where the body wanted rest, but some older, sharper part of the brain refused to fully let go. You feel an echo of that same tension on a stormy night now, centuries removed from any real threat. The part of you that startles awake at thunder is not confused. It is remembering. There is a psychological layer to all of this too. One that goes beyond mere survival logistics. Being confined with the same small group of people for days on end, with no ability to leave, no privacy, and constant close contact creates a particular kind of social pressure. Modern research on isolated environments, including studies conducted on Antarctic research stations and submarine crews, has repeatedly found that prolonged, forced proximity intensifies both bonding and conflict at the same time. Small irritations that would normally pass unnoticed become magnified. Old resentments resurface. But so does deeper loyalty because there is nowhere else for it to go. A week of rain for early humans would have functioned as an ancient version of exactly this. A closed system. A pressure chamber for relationships. The people who emerged from it still speaking to each other, still sharing food, still willing to trust, were the ones who had proven something. Not through a grand gesture, but through the accumulation of 100 small decisions made under mild but constant strain. There is another thread worth pulling on here. The children. In a group waiting out a storm, the youngest members were not simply protected and ignored. They were watching. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer societies, including work associated with the Hadza and various San groups, have documented how much of a child's early education happens exactly during these unstructured, forced-together periods. Not through direct instruction, but through overhearing. Watching an adult repair a tool by firelight. Listening to a story meant for someone else. Noticing which adult flinched at a particular sound outside the shelter, and learning without being told that the sound mattered. A week of rain was, in this sense, a hidden classroom, the kind with no lesson plan, where everything important got taught sideways, through proximity and repetition because there was simply no other way to spend the time. And what about the boredom itself before it turned into art? Before the marks on stone at Blombos, there must have been the restlessness that led there. Cognitive scientists studying attention and idle time have found something almost embarrassingly consistent across modern experiments. Given nothing to do, the human mind does not settle into calm emptiness. It searches for a task, any task, even an invented one. In one frequently cited study, participants left alone in a room with nothing but a device that delivered a mild electric shock chose, a notable number of them, to shock themselves rather than sit with their own unoccupied thoughts. The mind, it seems, treats total idleness as a kind of threat to be resolved. Your ancestors, trapped by rain with the fire tended and the food rationed, and the shelter as dry as it was going to get, would have hit that same wall. Restlessness with nowhere productive to spend itself. And so the hands found something to do. A stick got whittled into nothing in particular. A stone got turned over and scratched just to see what the mark would look like. Somewhere in exactly that kind of aimless motion, across thousands of years and thousands of shelters, the habit of making marks turned into the habit of making meaning. So here's what your ancestors actually did when the rain would not stop. They huddled closer than they wanted to. They talked more than usual, and that talking built the trust that kept the group alive. They guarded fire like it was breathing. They found out, in the sharpest way possible, who would share and who would not. They used knowledge passed down through generations just to keep from flooding. And in whatever minutes were left over, bored and cornered by weather, some of them picked up a stone and made a mark that would outlast them by 70,000 years. None of that was really about the rain. It was about what happens to people when the world stops giving them a choice. When you cannot hunt, cannot travel, cannot distract yourself with movement, what is left is each other. The talking, the tending, the quiet accounting of who helped and who didn't. Look at your phone. 11% still raining, still stuck. It feels like nothing. But you are doing exactly what they did. Waiting out something bigger than you next to people you have decided, whether you meant to or not, to trust.